Cole's chest heaved as he pushed through the packed club, neon lights flashing over his damp shirt, the roar of bass and laughter colliding with the storm inside his head. His eyes locked on Josh across the room, the man leaning against the bar, scanning the crowd with obvious intent. Cole knew who he was searching for. Shayla. A muscle ticked in Cole's jaw as he cut across the dance floor, shoving past bodies that moved to the rhythm, none of them aware of the battle brewing in the shadows. When Josh's gaze finally landed on him, recognition flared, followed by tension that snapped taut between them like a wire ready to break. Josh straightened, his brows furrowing as Cole stopped just feet away, drenched and brimming with an anger he no longer cared to hide. For a moment, neither spoke, the pulse of the music filling the silence, their locked stares sharper than any blade. Cole finally leaned forward, voice low, gravel rough. "Where is she?" Josh lifted a brow, his lips curling into something close to a smirk. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing." The calm in Josh's tone only stoked Cole's rage, heat simmering beneath his skin. He took another step, invading Josh's space, his hand slamming flat against the bar as if to hold back the explosion trembling inside him. "You don't get to look at her like that," Cole growled, the words shaking with jealousy and desperation. "You don't get to follow her around like you have any claim." Josh tilted his head, unbothered, eyes narrowing just enough to let Cole know he wasn't intimidated. "And what claim do you have, Cole? You're engaged. Last I checked, your fiancée was the one at your side, not Shayla." The reminder cut deep, slicing through the thin veil of control Cole had left. He clenched his fists, the truth of it burning him alive. He had Sophie. He had promises. But in his heart, none of it mattered, not when Shayla was the only one who haunted his every breath. The air between them was thick, the club around them fading into a blur as if the entire world had shrunk to this standoff. Cole leaned closer, his eyes dark, voice nearly a whisper but laced with venom. "Stay away from her." Josh didn't flinch. If anything, he stepped into the space Cole left, his voice calm but sharp enough to pierce. "Or what? You'll keep playing both sides? You'll keep breaking her while pretending she still belongs to you?" The words struck like a slap, raw and unrelenting, forcing Cole to swallow the jagged truth he refused to admit. His chest rose and fell, ragged, every part of him screaming to fight, to lash out, but deep down he knew, this wasn't about Josh. It was about Shayla. And somewhere outside, beyond the walls and the noise, she was alone, fighting her own war. Josh's words struck harder than any fist, and for a split second Cole faltered, the sharp edge of truth cutting through the haze of jealousy and rage. His chest rose and fell as if he had been sprinting for miles, his knuckles whitening against the bar, but his eyes never left Josh's. The music thundered around them, neon lights flashing like lightning across their faces, but the silence between them carried more weight than the noise of the entire room. Cole wanted to deny it, to bark out some venom to prove Josh wrong, but his throat tightened. The bitter taste of guilt was already there, coating his tongue. He hated that Josh could see straight through him, hated that Shayla had seen through him too. Josh leaned back slightly, his arms folding across his chest with maddening composure, like a man who knew the battlefield was already his. "You think she'll wait for you, Cole? You think she's blind to what you are? You can't have it both ways. You can't hold her in your arms one night and walk into Sophie's bed the next." His voice was low but sharp, threading through the music like a blade through silk. Every word tightened the vice around Cole's chest until he thought his ribs would crack. Anger surged to the surface again, but beneath it was something darker, fear. Fear of losing Shayla completely, fear of watching her slip away into someone else's hands. Cole leaned closer, his voice a low growl. "You don't know a damn thing about us." Josh's smirk faded, his gaze sharpening. "I know enough. Enough to see she deserves better than a man who chains her with promises he can't keep. Enough to know that when she cries, it's your name on her lips, not mine, not anyone else's. Yours. And you still let her walk away." The words gutted Cole, stripping him raw, leaving him exposed in a way no fight could. His breath hitched, his jaw clenched, and for a dangerous moment he considered putting his fist straight into Josh's face just to shut him up. But before he could move, before he could speak, a flash of movement at the corner of his vision snapped his attention away. The club doors swung open again, letting in the cool night air, and in that instant, Cole knew, Shayla was gone. Not just out of sight, but gone for real. He shoved off the bar, heart pounding, eyes scanning the crowd with frantic desperation. Josh watched him, silent now, the truth hanging heavy in the space between them. Cole's chest ached with the hollow realization that while he had been here, locked in a pissing match, she had slipped further from him than ever before. He cursed under his breath and pushed through the bodies on the dance floor, heading for the door, rain-damp air rushing in as he shoved it open. Outside, the street stretched empty, slick with water under the glow of passing headlights. Shayla was nowhere. Only the ghost of her perfume lingered in the night, mocking him with its fading sweetness. Cole dragged his hands over his face, rage, regret, and longing twisting inside him like barbed wire. For the first time in years, he felt truly powerless. And somewhere down that rain-slick street, Shayla was walking fast, her arms wrapped around herself, trying to put distance not just between them, but between her heart and the man who still owned it, no matter how much she wished he didn't. Shayla's heels clicked against the wet pavement as she hurried down the empty street, arms wrapped tightly around herself. The night pressed in heavy, the rain having eased into a mist that clung to her skin, but it wasn't the weather that made her shiver, it was the memory of his touch. Cole's voice, rough and desperate, still rang in her ears. "You are always mine." She hated him for saying it, hated him for meaning it, and hated herself more for the way her chest ached when she thought about it. Every step she took away from that club felt like an act of survival, as if distance was the only thing that could keep her from falling apart completely. She stopped suddenly beneath a flickering street lamp, chest heaving, tears stinging her eyes. She pressed her back to the cold brick wall of a building, trying to catch her breath, trying to convince herself she was doing the right thing. Cole was engaged. Sophie was pregnant. The weight of those facts pressed down on her until her knees nearly buckled. "Get it together," she whispered to herself, voice trembling. "You don't belong in his world. You never did." But even as the words left her lips, she felt the lie in them. Because she had belonged once. In his arms, in his bed, in those quiet stolen moments when the world had disappeared and it had just been them. Her body remembered, her heart remembered, and that was what made it so unbearable. A sudden noise snapped her out of her spiral, the heavy slam of the club doors echoing down the block. Shayla's head shot up, her pulse spiking. She knew without looking that it was him. Cole. Panic surged through her chest. She couldn't see him yet, but she could feel him, like the pull of gravity refusing to let her go. Wiping at her face, she pushed off the wall and started walking faster, her heels clicking sharper against the concrete. The thought of him catching up, of hearing her name fall from his lips again, terrified her. Because she knew if he begged her one more time, if he touched her one more time, she wouldn't be strong enough to resist. Back at the club's entrance, Cole stormed into the street, his eyes scanning every shadow, every passing figure. His heart pounded so loud it drowned out the city noise. He caught a glimpse of her dark hair under the streetlight, the curve of her shoulders hunched against the cold. Relief and fear slammed into him all at once. "Shayla," he called, his voice breaking through the night air. She froze for a split second before quickening her pace, her steps uneven, almost stumbling in her desperation to get away. Cole broke into a run. His shoes splashed against puddles, his breath tearing from his lungs, but he didn't care. He couldn't let her disappear into the night. Not like this. "Shayla, wait!" he shouted, closer now, his hand reaching out as if sheer will could bridge the distance between them. Shayla's chest heaved, her eyes blurring with fresh tears. Every instinct screamed at her to keep going, to vanish into the dark, but her heart betrayed her. It slowed her legs, weakened her steps, because some part of her still wanted to be caught. And when Cole's hand finally closed around her wrist, spinning her back toward him, the world seemed to hold its breath. Her breath caught as Cole's hand wrapped around her wrist, firm but trembling, the warmth of his grip searing through her even in the damp chill of the night. She gasped, half from shock, half from the way her heart leapt against her will. "Let me go," she whispered, voice breaking, though the plea lacked conviction. She twisted, but he held fast, not harsh, just desperate, as if letting go meant losing her forever. "Shayla," he rasped, rain-speckled hair plastered against his forehead, eyes burning with something rawer than anger, something broken. "Stop running from me." His chest heaved, every breath laced with panic, as though the space between them was tearing him apart. She shook her head, tears spilling freely now. "You don't get to say that. Not after everything. You have no right to stop me." Her voice rose, thick with anguish. "Go back to her, Cole. To Sophie. To the life you chose. That's where you belong." He flinched as if she'd slapped him, jaw tightening, but he didn't release her. His thumb brushed over the inside of her wrist, a touch so tender it nearly unraveled her. "Don't you get it?" he choked, leaning closer, his breath warm against her damp skin. "That's not where I belong. That's not where I've ever belonged. You know it as much as I do." Her chest shuddered with a sob she tried to swallow. She turned her face away, but he caught her chin gently, forcing her eyes back to his. For a moment, neither spoke. Their breaths mingled, their hearts beating wildly in unison, the world around them fading into silence. "I can't breathe without you," Cole whispered, his voice breaking. "I can't even look at her without feeling like I'm betraying you. Every second I'm away from you feels like hell. Don't tell me to walk away when you know I can't." His words tumbled out in a rush, each one heavier than the last. "You're in my blood, Shayla. You always have been." Her lips trembled, her body quaking under the weight of his confession. Part of her wanted to shove him back, to scream, to remind him of the ring on his finger and the promises he had made. But another part, deeper, fiercer, more dangerous, ached to throw herself into his arms and never let go. "Cole," she whispered, her voice raw with war between her heart and her mind. "Don't do this to me." But the way his forehead pressed against hers, the way his grip trembled as if he was afraid she might vanish, told her it was already too late. Shayla's chest heaved as her eyes locked with his, the world narrowing to the space between them, trembling and alive. Cole's breath brushed against her lips, so close, too close. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to pull away, to shove him back into the shadows where he belonged. But her heart, her traitorous, reckless heart, throbbed in defiance, aching for the comfort only he could give. "Don't," she whispered again, though it sounded more like a plea than a warning this time. "Don't make me choose." Cole's eyes softened, his thumb stroking her jaw as if she were fragile porcelain in his hands. "You already chose," he murmured, voice rough. "The day you kissed me, the night you let me hold you, every time you looked at me like I was your whole world. You think I forgot? You think I could ever forget?" His throat bobbed, his voice breaking as he leaned closer. "Baby, you were mine long before she ever showed up." Her breath shuddered, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She wanted to deny it, to push the words back down his throat before they tore her apart completely. But the memories flooded her instead, his touch, his laughter, the nights they had stolen like thieves, the way he had made her feel alive. Her heart betrayed her again, slamming against her ribs as if it were trying to leap into his hands. "Cole," her voice cracked under the weight of everything unsaid. "It doesn't matter. It can't matter. She's carrying your child." The words tasted like poison, but she forced them out, desperate to anchor herself to reality. For the briefest second, pain flickered in his eyes, raw and cutting. But then he shook his head, resolute. "Don't you dare use that to push me away," he growled, his grip tightening on her wrist, not painful, but firm, grounding. "I'll do right by her, but don't you ever think that means she owns me. My heart's not hers, Shayla. It's never been hers." Her lips parted, trembling, her voice lost in the hurricane of his confession. The rain mist clung to them, the streetlight flickering above like the world itself was holding its breath. She wanted to scream at him, to kiss him, to run and stay all at once. And before she could decide, his mouth claimed hers. It wasn't the soft, stolen kiss from earlier. It was fire, hungry, desperate, broken. His hands cradled her face as if she were the only thing holding him together, his body pressing against hers with the force of years of unsaid words. Shayla gasped, resisting for the briefest heartbeat, then melted against him, her fingers clutching his soaked shirt, clinging as if letting go would mean drowning. The kiss stole the air from her lungs, but it gave her back something else she hadn't felt in so long, home. And that terrified her most of all. The world seemed to dissolve around them as Cole's mouth moved against hers, hard and desperate, pulling every ounce of fight from her body. Shayla clutched his shirt like it was the only thing keeping her upright, her tears mixing with the rain on their skin. His kiss wasn't careful, wasn't gentle, it was years of longing, jealousy, heartbreak, and love poured into one reckless act. She knew she should shove him away, scream, remind him of the life he was bound to, but the moment his tongue brushed against hers, her knees weakened and the walls she'd built came crashing down. Cole groaned into her mouth, like he'd finally been given air after suffocating for too long. His hands slid down to her waist, dragging her closer, crushing her against him as if he could bury every inch of distance that had ever existed between them. Shayla let out a broken whimper, the sound muffled between their lips, and Cole's chest tightened at the sound. God, she still fit perfectly against him. God, he had missed her more than he could stand. When they finally broke apart, it wasn't because she pushed him away. It was because they both needed to breathe. Their foreheads rested together, panting, their hearts beating wild and unsteady. Shayla's lips trembled, swollen from his kiss, her eyes glassy with tears she couldn't stop. Cole's thumb stroked her cheeks, his voice hoarse when he finally spoke. "I told you," he whispered, raw and guttural. You're mine. You'll always be mine. Her body trembled, her grip still tangled in his shirt. Stop saying that, she breathed, though her voice lacked force. You don't belong to me. You belong to her. Cole's jaw tightened. He pressed his lips to her temple, eyes squeezed shut as if the truth physically pained him. No, he muttered against her skin. I belong to you. Every goddamn piece of me belongs to you. Shayla's breath hitched, her heart spiraling between joy and devastation. The words she dreamed of, longed for, burned now that she had them. Because they weren't free. They came wrapped in chains, chains of Sophie, of a ring, of an unborn child. She shoved him back suddenly, gasping, desperate to breathe something other than him. Don't do this to me, Cole, she cried, voice echoing down the empty street. You don't get to love me halfway. You don't get to keep me here while you're tied to her. I can't. I won't let you destroy me like this. Her chest heaved, her eyes blazing even as tears streamed down her face. Cole stood frozen, his chest rising and falling, rain dripping from his jaw. For the first time, he looked lost. Like a man who'd set fire to everything around him just to keep her warm, only to realize he was burning himself alive. And before either of them could move, before he could beg again, before she could run, another voice cut through the night, sharp and laced with disbelief. Cole! Both their heads whipped toward the sound. Standing at the mouth of the street, framed beneath the harsh glow of another streetlight, was Sophie. The moment Sophie's voice pierced the night, the fragile thread between Cole and Shayla snapped like glass underfoot. Shayla stumbled back instinctively, as though distance might erase what Sophie had just witnessed. Her hand flew to her lips, swollen from Cole's kiss, her chest heaving as panic surged through her veins. Her eyes darted between him and Sophie, her mind screaming for escape but her body locked in place. Cole turned slowly, his face paling, his breath ragged. Sophie stood a few feet away, her umbrella hanging uselessly at her side, rain soaking her expensive dress, mascara streaking faintly down her cheeks. Her wide, glassy eyes weren't filled with fury, not at first. They were filled with hurt, raw, bone-deep hurt. The kind that seared straight through the chest. Tell me I didn't just see that, she whispered, her voice trembling, breaking in the middle. Cole's throat worked, but no sound came. He took one hesitant step toward her, his hand half lifting before falling helplessly to his side. Sophie! Don't, she snapped, the word sharp as a blade. Her hands trembled, clenching into fists around the handle of her umbrella. Don't you dare say my name like everything's fine. She laughed bitterly, though it cracked and fell apart halfway through. God, Cole, after everything. After all your promises. After the baby, her voice faltered, her free hand curling protectively over her stomach. Shayla's eyes widened at the gesture, guilt crashing over her like a tidal wave. Her pulse roared in her ears. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She had become the villain in the story she'd never wanted to be part of. Cole shook his head fiercely, rain flying from his hair. It's not what you think, he blurted, desperation clawing at his voice. He looked back at Shayla, then to Sophie again, torn, bleeding in front of both women. I love you, Sophie. He broke off, the lie choking in his throat, because even in this moment, he couldn't say it with conviction. His eyes betrayed him, darting back to Shayla like a compass locked on true north. Sophie saw it. She felt it. And something inside her shattered. You don't love me, she whispered, her face crumpling as the realization settled. You never did. The silence that followed was deafening. Rain pattered against the pavement, distant music pulsed from the club, but between the three of them, there was only the sound of broken breathing. Shayla's lips parted, her chest aching with the weight of guilt and longing. She wanted to say something, to Sophie, to Cole, to anyone, but her voice was gone. Sophie's eyes flicked between them, filled with a devastation that words could never capture. Then, with a sharp inhale, she turned on her heels splashing against the wet pavement as she walked away, her pace quickening, breaking into a near run as she disappeared into the storm. Cole's heart seized. Sophie, he shouted, taking a step forward, but his feet rooted to the ground. He looked back at Shayla, torn in half, his world imploding in the rain. And Shayla, trembling, finally found her voice. Cole's chest rose and fell in ragged bursts, every muscle in his body screaming at him to run after Sophie, to fix what he'd just destroyed. But his feet wouldn't move. They stayed rooted in place, glued by the weight of Shayla's trembling voice, by the raw ache in her eyes. Go, Shayla urged again, stronger this time, though her voice cracked around the word. She shoved at his chest with both hands, as if forcing the choice on him. Don't stand here. Don't make me watch you fall apart. Go to her. Go to your family. The word cut through him like a blade. Family. It should have been enough to push him forward. It should have been the anchor to pull him back into Sophie's orbit. But when his eyes dropped to Shayla, drenched, trembling, lips still red from his kiss, he couldn't move. He caught her wrists, holding them against his chest, his heartbeat pounding beneath her fingertips. His voice broke as he whispered, I can't. I can't leave you standing here like this. I can't let you think she's my world when it's you, Shayla. It's always been you. Her eyes squeezed shut, her breath hitching. Don't do this, she begged. Don't make me carry the weight of tearing you away from her. Don't you dare put that on me. I'm not putting it on you, Cole rasped, shaking his head. I'm telling you the truth. I stayed with her because it was the right thing to do. But loving her. He let out a bitter laugh, soaked with rain and grief. I've never loved her. Not the way I love you. Shayla wrenched her hands free, stumbling back, her chest heaving like she'd just been struck. Then you're a coward, she spat, tears streaming down her face. Because if that's true, you've been lying to her every single day. You've been lying to yourself. And you've been lying to me. Her words cut deeper than she realized, his expression breaking open in pain. He reached for her, but she stepped back again, shaking her head. Don't, she whispered, her voice trembling. Don't touch me. Don't say my name. Go fix the mess you made, Cole. Because if you don't, you're going to lose everything. The silence that followed was suffocating, filled only with the rain and the hollow thud of Cole's heartbeat in his ears. He looked toward the direction Sophie had run, then back at Shayla, his past, his present, his future, all tangled in one woman who was walking away from him just as quickly as the other. For the first time in his life, Cole realized there was no right choice. Only devastation, waiting no matter which way he turned. And as Shayla turned her back and disappeared into the shadows, his knees nearly buckled with the weight of it. Cole stood there for a long moment, rain streaming down his face, his body paralyzed between two worlds, one vanishing into the shadows, the other into the storm. His fists clenched at his sides, his jaw tight, every muscle screaming with indecision. Then, with a strangled curse, he turned and bolted into the night after Sophie. The city blurred around him as he ran, his shoes splashing through puddles, his lungs burning. He shouted her name, voice raw against the roar of rain and traffic. Sophie! But she didn't stop. She was already halfway down the block, clutching her stomach with one hand, her other arm wrapping around herself like she could hold her heart together. When he finally caught up, his hand closed around her wrist. She spun on him, her eyes blazing with tears and fury. Don't touch me, she cried, yanking herself free. Cole staggered back, chest heaving. Please, just, listen to me. Listen. Sophie laughed bitterly, her voice breaking. I listened when you told me I was enough. I listened when you swore you loved me, when you promised this baby would grow up in a home filled with love. And what do I find? You, her voice cracked as fresh tears streamed down her face, you in the rain with her. Cole's throat tightened, his heart hammering against his ribs. It wasn't what you think. Don't you dare insult me with that, Sophie snapped, stepping closer, jabbing a finger into his chest. I saw you, Cole. I saw the way you looked at her. I saw the way you kissed her, like I've never been kissed by you in my entire life. Her voice shattered on the last word, and she covered her mouth, sobbing into her palm. Cole's chest tore open at the sound, guilt clawing at every nerve. He reached for her again, his hands trembling. I screwed up. God, I screwed up so badly. But Sophie, I swear to you, I care about you. I care about this baby. I never wanted to hurt you. Sophie's hands fell from her face, her eyes blazing through tears. But you did. Her voice was barely a whisper, soft and final, like a sentence handed down. Cole froze, the truth of it slamming into him like a fist. Sophie shook her head, stepping back, rain soaking her hair, plastering it to her cheeks. You don't get to care halfway, Cole. Not with me. Not with our child. Her hand slid protectively over her stomach again, her shoulders squaring as she straightened, finding strength in her brokenness. Then she whispered the words that made his heart stop. If you can't choose me completely, then don't choose me at all. She turned and walked away again, her step slow but steady this time, her back rigid with resolve. Cole stood in the middle of the street, his chest aching, the rain blurring his vision until he couldn't tell what was water and what was grief. And for the first time in years, Cole didn't know if he had the strength to run after anyone anymore. Shayla's heels clicked against the slick pavement as she rounded the corner, each step fueled by adrenaline and heartbreak. The rain had soaked her hair flat against her face, mascara running in dark streaks down her cheeks, but she didn't care. Not anymore. By the time she ducked under the awning of a closed cafe, her chest gave out, and she collapsed onto the step, clutching her knees as sobs tore free. She pressed her fist against her mouth to muffle the sound, but it was no use. Her body shook with the weight of it all, the kiss, Sophie's broken voice, Cole's desperate eyes. She hated herself for how badly she still ached for him. For how, even in that chaos, her heart had leapt when he said it's always been you. Those words clung to her skin like the rain, impossible to wash away. Her phone buzzed in her purse, dragging her back to the world. Hands trembling, she pulled it out. Josh's name lit up the screen. Her stomach clenched. She almost didn't answer, but something in her couldn't stand the thought of sitting in the silence alone. Shayla! Where the hell are you? His voice was frantic, muffled by club noise. I've been looking everywhere. Did something happen? She drew a shuddering breath, wiping at her face though it did little good. I had to get out, she whispered, voice raw. Josh paused, his tone softening instantly. Are you okay? Do you want me to come get you? Her throat tightened. Josh. Steady, reliable, kind. The opposite of everything that had just torn her apart. She wanted to say yes, to let him find her, to let his calm presence drown out the storm Cole had left in her chest. But when she opened her mouth, no words came. Silence stretched until Josh spoke again, quieter this time. It was him, wasn't it? Her breath caught. She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. He sighed on the other end, a mix of frustration and something that almost sounded like hurt. Shayla, he's engaged. He's not going to stop hurting you. You know that, right? Her eyes blurred again, fresh tears spilling. I know, she whispered, though her heart screamed the opposite. Josh hesitated, then said gently, text me where you are. Please. Don't sit out there alone. She didn't promise. She couldn't. Instead, she ended the call and dropped the phone into her lap, staring blankly at the puddles forming in the street. Because the truth was, she wasn't afraid of being alone. She was afraid of what her heart would choose if Cole came back for her. The rain had slowed to a mist by the time Shayla finally pushed herself to her feet. Her legs felt heavy, like each step carried the weight of every memory she'd ever had with Cole. She pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders and started walking, no destination in mind, just away. Away from the club, away from the chaos, away from him. But fate wasn't done with her yet. Headlights swept across the street, and a familiar black truck slowed beside the curb. The passenger window rolled down, and Cole's face appeared, pale and drenched, his eyes hollow but burning with desperation. Shayla, get in, he called, his voice hoarse. Her heart clenched, her feet stalling on the sidewalk. No, she shot back, her voice trembling. Go home, Cole. Go to her. I can't leave you out here like this, he said, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles whitened. Please. Just get in. We don't have to talk. I can't let you walk away in the middle of the night alone. She shook her head, water dripping from her hair. You don't get to play the protector. Not after tonight. His jaw flexed, his shoulders slumping. For a moment, he looked like he might give up. But then he shoved the truck into park and swung the door open, stepping into the mist. His shirt clung to him, his hair plastered to his forehead, but his eyes never left hers. Then I'll walk with you, he said simply. Shayla's breath hitched. Why are you doing this to me? Because I can't let you go, he admitted, his voice breaking. No matter how hard I try. No matter what I tell myself. I can't. She closed her eyes, shaking her head, torn between fury and longing. You're going to destroy us both, Cole. Maybe, he whispered, stepping closer, his gaze locked on hers. But I'd rather be destroyed with you than whole without you. The words hung between them, heavy and dangerous, threatening to shatter what little resolve she had left. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket. Josh, no doubt still waiting for her reply. And in that moment, Shayla realized she was standing at a crossroads, safety with Josh, or chaos with Cole. Her fingers twitched toward her phone, but her eyes stayed locked on the man standing in the rain, waiting for her answer. Shayla's hand hovered over her pocket, the steady vibration of her phone rattling against her thigh like a heartbeat she couldn't ignore. Josh's name glowed on the screen through the damp fabric, a lifeline if she wanted to take it. Safety. Stability. A future that wasn't tangled in secrets and lies. But then there was Cole. Standing there, rain dripping from his jawline, his chest heaving like every breath hurt. His eyes, dark, tortured, pleading, pulled at something deep inside her she hated herself for not letting go of. Her throat tightened. Cole. The way his name broke from her lips nearly undid him. He stepped forward, slow, careful, like approaching a wild animal that might bolt at any second. Just, let me be here. Don't send me away. Please. She wanted to scream at him. To shove him back into his truck and tell him to drive straight to Sophie and never look at her again. But the words got stuck in her throat, tangled with the memory of his mouth on hers, of the way his touch had felt like home even when everything about him screamed danger. Before she could speak, headlights swept over them from the opposite end of the street. A familiar silver car slowed to the curb. Shayla's stomach dropped. Josh. He killed the engine and stepped out, his expression tightening the second he saw Cole standing inches from her, rain-soaked and desperate. His gaze flicked between them, sharp as glass, and then locked on Shayla. Is this what I think it is? Josh's voice was low, even, but underneath it was a storm of its own. Shayla's breath caught, panic flooding her chest. Josh. No, Cole cut in, stepping in front of her like he could shield her from the question. This isn't what it looks like. Josh laughed bitterly, shaking his head. You've got to be kidding me. That line. That's what you're going with. His eyes snapped back to Shayla, hurt flickering across his face. Tell me the truth. Please. Am I wasting my time? Shayla's knees weakened. Two men, both staring at her, both demanding an answer she didn't have the strength to give. Her chest rose and fell with ragged breaths, her heart screaming in two directions at once. And in the silence that stretched too long, Cole whispered the words that made the air crackle. She doesn't belong to you. Josh's jaw clenched, his fists tightening at his sides, but his gaze never left Shayla. Then say it, he told her softly. Say it to my face. If he's the one you want, then say it, and I'll walk away right now. The world seemed to hold its breath as both men waited for her answer. Shayla's lips parted, trembling. But no sound came out. Josh's words echoed in the misty street like a challenge, but also a plea. Say it, and I'll walk away right now. Shayla's lungs burned as if the rain itself had filled them. Her mouth opened, but the words refused to form. She wasn't ready to make the choice. She couldn't, not while her heart was still at war with itself. Her silence stretched. And that silence was all Cole needed. He stepped closer, his jaw hard, his voice low and sharp. She doesn't have to say it, Josh. Look at her. Look in her eyes, you already know. Josh's gaze flicked to Shayla, searching, desperate for any sign that Cole was wrong. For a second, he saw it, the flicker of hesitation, the trace of longing that hadn't quite died. His chest collapsed in on itself, pain slicing through him. But then his grief twisted into fury. You son of a bitch. Josh shoved Cole back a step, the sound of impact echoing in the damp night. You don't get to tear her apart just because you can't make up your mind. You don't get to ruin her life and mine in the process. Cole steadied himself, his expression darkening. He didn't shove back, at least not at first. This isn't about you, he growled. This is between me and her. Josh barked a bitter laugh. The hell it isn't about me. I've been the one picking up her pieces every time you crush her. I've been the one there when she's crying over you, when she's drowning because of you. You don't deserve her, Cole. You never did. Cole's chest heaved, his fists clenching at his sides. And you think you do? You think being her safe option makes you the right one? She doesn't burn for you, Josh. She never has. Not the way she does for me. That was the breaking point. Josh swung. The crack of fist against jaw rang out, and Cole stumbled back a step, wiping blood from his lip as rain and tension mingled thick in the air. Stop! Shayla's voice ripped through the night, raw and panicked. She shoved herself between them, arms outstretched, tears blurring her vision. Both of you, stop it! Cole and Josh froze, breathing hard, their eyes locked over her head like predators circling the same prey. Shayla turned, her chest heaving, her voice trembling with fury. Do you hear yourselves? Do you see yourselves? This isn't love. This is destruction. And I'm done being the battlefield. Her words struck harder than any punch. Cole's fists loosened, his expression crumbling, but his eyes never left her. Josh's jaw flexed, his shoulders sagging under the weight of her pain. And Shayla. Shayla felt herself unraveling, standing between two men who would tear the world apart for her, yet both were capable of destroying her in the process. Shayla's chest rose and fell in ragged bursts, her arms still stretched out between them, her palms trembling. For a moment, the world was silent except for the steady patter of rain dripping off the cafe awning. She looked at Cole, blood at the corner of his mouth, eyes wild but desperate, like a man who'd already lost everything and was clawing for one last piece of hope. She looked at Josh, jaw tight, fury simmering beneath the surface, but behind it a raw kind of hurt, the kind that came from loving someone who couldn't love him back in the same way. Her throat constricted, and the words spilled out before she could stop them. I can't do this. Not like this. Not with either of you. Cole's head jerked, his face twisting as if she'd physically struck him. Shayla. No, she cut him off, her voice breaking. I'm not a prize for you to fight over. I'm not some possession to be claimed. I'm a person. And right now, I feel like I'm drowning because of both of you. Josh swallowed hard, his shoulders falling, but his voice stayed steady. Shayla, I never meant to make you feel that way. I just wanted. You wanted me to choose you, she said, softer now, tears sliding freely down her cheeks. And you, she turned to Cole, pain flashing in her eyes, you wanted me to stay chained to the past, even though your future is with someone else. You're both asking me for pieces of myself I don't even have left to give. She stepped back from them both, shaking her head, her body trembling. I can't breathe here. I need space. I need time. I need me. Cole took a step forward, anguish written across every line of his face. Baby, don't walk away. Don't do this. You know it's us. Her chest caved in, but she forced herself to stand tall, voice steady despite the tears. If it's really us, Cole, then it will still be us after I put myself back together. But right now, I can't even recognize who I am anymore. Josh tried to reach for her, but she shook her head. Don't. Please. Not tonight. Both men stood frozen, helpless, as Shayla turned away. Her heels splashed through shallow puddles as she disappeared into the mist, her silhouette fading with every step. For the first time, neither man followed her. And for the first time in weeks, Shayla felt both completely shattered and terrifyingly free. Shayla didn't look back. Every step away from them felt like ripping open a wound, but she knew if she hesitated, if she gave either one of them a second glance, her resolve would shatter. The mist clung to her skin, the streetlights blurring through her tears, and for the first time in forever, she let herself just run. Her lungs burned, her heart pounding, but she didn't stop until she reached the quiet edge of town. A small park, nearly deserted at this hour, spread out before her. The swings swayed in the damp wind, chains creaking like whispers. Shayla sank onto one, her hands gripping the cold metal, and finally let herself sob. For so long, her identity had been tangled up in Cole's fire and Josh's steadiness. One had set her ablaze, the other had offered her calm, but in both storms, she had lost sight of herself. Who was Shayla without them? She closed her eyes, the rain cooling her hot skin, her breath slowing as the sobs broke into silence. Behind her, footsteps crunched against wet gravel. Shayla's spine stiffened, panic jolting through her. She turned, half expecting to see Cole charging after her or Josh trying to mend what was already broken. But it was neither. It was Sophie. Her arms were folded across her chest, her hair plastered damp against her cheek, her expression unreadable. You're harder to keep track of than I thought, she said softly, almost too calmly. Shayla's heart hammered. What are you doing here? Sophie stepped closer, her eyes glinting under the streetlight. Funny. I was going to ask you the same thing. Out here, crying in the rain over a man who's already promised to me. Her voice was sweet, but there was steel beneath it, sharp enough to cut. Shayla's grip tightened on the swings chain, her throat dry. If you came here to gloat, don't bother. You've already won. Sophie tilted her head, a small, cold smile curving her lips. Oh, Shayla, you think this is a game. But I don't play games. The air thickened between them, rain pattering softly like a drumbeat. For the first time, Shayla realized she hadn't just been fighting with Cole. She might be standing face to face with someone who had no intention of ever letting him go. Sophie's heels clicked against the wet pavement as she stepped closer, her presence steady and unnervingly calm, like a predator who already knew the outcome of the hunt. Shayla gripped the swing's chains tighter, the cool metal biting into her palms. You think I don't see it? Sophie's voice was smooth, almost gentle. The way he looks at you. The way his whole body shifts when you enter a room. You're the ghost between us, Shayla. Always haunting. Always lingering. Shayla swallowed hard, her chest tightening. Then why are you here? If you know he doesn't love you the way he... Careful, Sophie cut her off, her eyes flashing. Don't mistake obsession for love. What Cole feels for you, it isn't devotion. It's destruction. And if you're not careful, it'll destroy you too. Her words sank deep, but there was something else in Sophie's tone, something darker than warning. Possession. A woman who wasn't pleading for her man, but staking her claim. Shayla rose from the swing slowly, her legs shaky but her gaze steady. If you're so sure about what Cole and I are, or aren't, then why follow me here? Why confront me at all? Sophie's lips curled into a faint smile, but her eyes didn't soften. Because I want you to understand something. She leaned in, her perfume sharp even against the damp night air. Cole is mine. He will marry me. He will raise our child. And you will learn to stay in the shadows where you belong. Shayla's stomach dropped. Her heart stumbled. Our child. The words echoed like a thunderclap. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. You're pregnant. Sophie's smile widened, triumph gleaming in her gaze. Now you understand why you'll never win. Whatever hold you think you have, it ends tonight. The ground tilted beneath Shayla's feet, her breath rushing out in jagged bursts. She'd known about the engagement. She'd even suspected Sophie's grip on Cole wasn't just a facade. But this was something that chained him to her in a way Shayla couldn't fight. And Sophie knew it. The storm inside Shayla twisted into something sharp and dangerous. She straightened, forcing strength into her voice. If you think a ring and a baby will erase what's between Cole and me, you're wrong. Because no matter what you claim, you see it, you feel it, every time he looks at me. And that's why you're standing here in the rain, trying to convince me instead of yourself. For the first time, Sophie's mask slipped, her jaw tightening. Just for a second, Shayla saw it, the crack in her confidence. The silence between them thickened, the rain falling harder, as two women stood toe-to-toe, bound together by the same man but divided by fire and fury. And somewhere deep inside, Shayla realized this wasn't just about Cole anymore. This was war. The rain came harder now, a cold curtain soaking them both, but neither woman flinched. Sophie's eyes narrowed, her lips curving into something sharp and dangerous. You really think that little speech changes anything? That Cole will suddenly wake up tomorrow and run back to you? She leaned closer, voice dropping to a hiss. You'll always be the mistake he couldn't quite let go of. Shayla's chest tightened, but she refused to let Sophie see her break. Her voice was low, steady, razor-edged. Funny thing about mistakes, Sophie, they haunt you. And deep down, you know I'll haunt him forever. The words hit their mark. Sophie's mask cracked again, her nostrils flaring, her composure slipping just slightly. Careful, Shayla, she said, her voice shaking now, though she tried to steady it. You don't want to make me your enemy. Shayla stepped forward, inches away now, her breath mingling with Sophie's in the cold night air. I don't want to make you anything. I didn't choose this war. But if you bring it to my doorstep, don't expect me to lose. For a long, pulsing second, neither moved. Their eyes locked, two storms colliding, both refusing to break. Finally, Sophie let out a sharp laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. She stepped back, her heels splashing in the puddles. You're stronger than I thought, she admitted, her tone almost mocking. But strength won't save you. Not from him. And not from me. She turned sharply, her silhouette cutting through the mist as she disappeared into the night, leaving the echo of her words behind like a dagger lodged in Shayla's chest. Shayla stood frozen, the rain dripping from her hair, her fists clenched at her sides. Every part of her screamed to collapse, to fall apart under the weight of what she'd just learned. But instead, she whispered to herself, her voice trembling but fierce. This isn't over. And for the first time, Shayla wasn't sure if she was promising herself freedom, or vowing to fight fire with fire. The rain-soaked streets blurred behind Shayla as she walked, every step heavy, her mind spinning with Sophie's words. A child. She's carrying his child. The revelation gnawed at her, a cruel reminder of just how tangled her life had become. By the time she reached her apartment, her clothes clung to her skin, her hair dripping cold trails down her neck. She shut the door behind her, pressing her back against it, trying to ground herself. But silence only made the storm inside her louder. She drifted to the mirror above her dresser, staring at the reflection of a woman she barely recognized. Her eyes were red, her cheeks streaked with rain and tears, her lips trembling. But beneath the wreckage, something else burned, something Sophie had ignited without realizing. Resolve. She pressed her palms flat against the dresser, leaning in closer to her reflection. "You're not going to break," she whispered to herself. "Not for him. Not for her. Not for anyone." Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, the vibration sharp against the quiet room. She picked it up with shaky fingers, the screen glowing with Cole's name. Her thumb hovered over accept. For a heartbeat, she almost gave in. Almost let his voice wash over her, almost let herself believe his promises. But then she heard Sophie's voice in her head again. "He will marry me. He will raise our child." Shayla's chest constricted. She hit decline. And then, for good measure, she switched the phone off completely. She curled onto her bed, staring at the ceiling, the silence pressing in. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't waiting for Cole to call. She wasn't hoping for Josh to knock. She wasn't letting anyone else decide who she was. But as her eyes drifted shut, exhaustion pulling her under, one thought lingered. If Sophie thinks she's already won, she doesn't know me at all.